templates there. Tonight we're going to be talking about faux piecing, which is what I call the technique of creating a block for a quilt, or in this case a tote bag, or whatever you want to do with it, without actually piecing. So we're going to create the illusion of piecing by using embroidery stitches on a single piece of fabric rather than doing it with traditional piecing. I'm going to give you just a heads up of what that looks like. I always like to do that so you get an idea of what the project is going to end up looking like before we get into the software section. Okay, so that's what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Before we get into the software itself, I just want to mention that you're going to want to go to the Floriani Club site, which is myfloriani.club, and download the project. And when you do that, you're going to get a C2S file that has a completed project stitch file, or actually C2S file. Just in case you get lost, you can always go back to that one and take a look at how it's supposed to have turned out. You're also going to get a nice set of PDF instructions, and those are going to be real vital for completing the project and for following along with this video. You used to be able to get these products directly from the My Floriani Today screen in MDQ. That is no longer the case. So the new way that you're going to download these is go to the club site. Now the club is invitation only. As you can see here, here is my login screen. If you did not get an invitation and you're an MDQ owner, you're going to want to request membership. And you're going to do that by going through the steps I'm going to walk you through here. We did try and send out an invitation to all MDQ owners, but as email happens, you know, sometimes things get lost, or you didn't realize that you needed to actually click and log in and join the club. I want to mention that there's no charge for the club because you're a software owner. If you already own FTCP or FTCU or FES, you may have already got an invitation and joined the club, in which case you should be able to see the MDQ content as well. If you don't own one of these, you're only going to see the MDQ content on this website, and if you own both, of course, you'll be able to see the MDQ and the other content on the website. So let's kind of walk through this page real quick here. I'm going to scroll down to confirm that you want to read this whole thing. But basically, the first step you want to do is you want to click right here. And when you click there, I'm going to go ahead and click it so you see what happens. Come on, mouse. There it goes. Okay. So you just put in the email address that you registered the software with. Now, just make sure that it's the email address you registered the software with. If you've changed your email, can no longer get to that email address. We'll get to that in just a second. The important thing here, though, is be sure that Walter at myfloriani.club is whitelisted in your spam software or your antivirus software. And whitelisted means that you allow this email address to come through. If you don't, it could go into your spam folder and you'll never see the invitation, never get your temporary password. So that's a real important step. So you just put in your email address here, click Resend Login, and you will get your password re-emailed to you. If nothing shows up and you verify that it's not in your spam folder, you want to come down here to where I'm sorry that email was not found, and you want to click here to request membership access. And that screen will have you enter all your information again, such as your serial number, your name, address, etc., so we can verify that you're an owner. Now, if you no longer have access to the email address that you registered with, you also want to come down here and click this link, and you'll get a chance to enter a new email address in at that time. Okay, so I'm going to go up here and click my sign-in link. So I go ahead and sign into the club. When you sign into the club, you're going to see Walter's thought for the day. The monthly designs and project are cleverly located in the tab called Monthly Designs and Project. So you're going to want to come to this little button right here, click it. It's usually going to ask you to verify your sign-in information one more time. So I'm going to go ahead and click it to sign in one more time, and we're just going to repeat that process. It's just a double check to make sure that you've really are registered for the club. If you have FTCP or FTCU or FES, you're going to see this screen right here, which is your free monthly designs for those programs. And if you don't, you're going to see the bottom screen. If you do, you want to scroll down to this screen right here, which is your free monthly My Decorative Quilter design project, and click right here to install the current month design. When you do that, it's going to download a file. You want to double click on that file and tell it to run it, and it will automatically install the design. If you're new and you've never installed any current designs before and you want to find all the old designs, you can click here for Install All Designs. And if you want to see where it put them, you can click here on Where Are My Free Projects, and it will show you where they are. I'm going to show you where they are in just a second, so I'm not going to click on this link, but if you want to see it later, you can always click on that link. I'm going to go ahead and close my browser now. I've already downloaded the project for the month, so I am not going to need this anymore. And it looks like my mouse is taking 2 clicks to do everything. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the software portion of the project right now, and then we'll come along afterwards and we will work on some of the assembly details of how you stitch this file out. And at the same time, we're also going to show you a technique for lining various designs up in the hoop with other designs that you've already stitched. So you're going to get 2 kinds of techniques out of this webinar. So the first thing you want to do is, if you come up with this blank screen like this, you need to come up here and click Create a New Document or Open a New Page, whatever you want to call it. But you're going to click on that, and you're going to get your page with or without a grid. Really doesn't matter for this project. I'm going to turn my grid off by clicking this icon right here to just turn the grid off so we're not bothered by it during the webinar. But the first thing we want to do is make sure our work area is set up the same as we created the project in, so that everything works as you follow along with it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our ruler bar and make sure that we are in inches mode. And you can see it right up here in the upper right of the ruler, and it says inches. If it does, you're okay. If it doesn't, what you want to do is right-click on the ruler. That's a right-click on the ruler, and just check inches if you are in metric mode. So just go ahead and click inches. I'm just going to click inches again, and we are in inches. The next thing we want to do is come up to our Tools menu, which is right up here. Click that, go to General Options, and again we're going to click on our grid settings here, and we just want to make sure that Snap to Grid is turned off. Doesn't really matter what your grid spacing is for this particular project. We just want to make sure that Snap to Grid is turned off. And here you can have your grid as lines or as dots or totally off like I have. It really won't make any difference to this project. The last thing you want to double check is come over here to the digitizing icon. Make sure your outline input mode is set to simple draw. If you have not changed it, this will still be the case. If you have changed it to advanced, you want to set it back to simple and click OK. So now we're ready to get started. To start this project, we're going to bring in an existing block, and we are going to modify that block for our purposes. So we select the block in MDQ by coming up here to the Select Block icon, and we click it once to bring up this menu. We are going to use a curved block. There are many different types of curved blocks, and you see there's a little plus sign here in front of curved blocks. We're going to press that, and to open it up and show all the blocks that are underneath this one, we're going to go to Drunkard's Path, and we're going to use Drunkard's Path variation number 5. So I want you to click on that once, and then come down here to OK, and click that to bring it into the software. And that brings in our block, and that's what we're going to use. So if you look over here in the sequence view, we see 3 different colors. And what I want you to do next is click on the middle color. That's a Floriani Pale Pink, and it will just select that middle color. And we're actually going to delete that, because that pale pink, as you can see here, is actually the background pieces. We're not going to actually piece anything on the background, and we're not going to fill this with stitches, so we don't need it. So we're actually going to delete it. And the way we're going to do that is come up here to our cut icon, our scissors icon, and just simply click it to delete it. And what you're left with should look just like this. We're going to go back to the sequence view, and the top color here, this is Floriani pink. We're going to click the little plus sign here to look at all the elements of it. We're going to click on the very first artwork, and that relates to this artwork section right here. And if you're not aware of it, artwork is our terminology for the lines that define a specific shape. Right now, this isn't stitches yet. This is just representing either where stitches or a piece would go or something. So it's just artwork, but we can convert this artwork into stitches, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're actually going to be doing it twice. We're actually going to make a steel or satin stitch outline, and we're going to fill it with a textured fill. So we're actually going to need this artwork twice. So we're going to come up and we're going to click our copy icon, and then we're going to click our paste icon. And that's going to paste a copy of the artwork right over the top of the first one. And you can see now we've got 5 over here, and where we used to have 4. The second one, the one we just selected or just pasted, is already selected for us. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to convert that outline into a steel stitch. And we have a button right here, an icon called Convert to Steel. So we're just going to come up and click that once, and it's going to create a steel stitch going all the way around that block. Now, this is a little bit wide stitch. The default's 3 millimeters. We want to come over here to our properties, and we're going to change that from 3 millimeters to 1.4. So to do that, we're going to just select over it. We're going to type in 1.4 and click Apply. And that's really all we need to do. And now we have a nice thin steel stitch running around our block. Now, we really don't want, in this case, a steel stitch going all the way around. What we want is a steel stitch that starts down here, runs up here, and then comes down with a run stitch down here, because we're going to have another block just like it over here. So we want the stitching to go up like this, down with a run, and then another steel, then in with a run. And so that's what we're going to do that. We're going to break this apart, and so we can work with the various parts of this as individual sections so that we can convert the stitches from one type to another. To do that, we're going to come over to our Shape tool over here. We're going to click our Shape tool, and that's going to change what this looks like. And what you're seeing right now is not only the points of the curve, but you're also seeing some start and stop points. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to right-click on this point right here. And you can see as I get the cursor closer to it, you can see that a little blue dot appears below the cursor. That tells me I'm close enough. Now, if I either right or left click, I will modify this particular point in the design. So I am going to right-click on it, and that's going to bring up a little menu. And what I want to select from that menu is Split Line. And when I do that, you can see that I get a new start-stop point over here. And sometimes this point's going to be red for you. Sometimes it's going to be green for you. The directions, the printed directions, will say that a red dot shows up. Sometimes it's green. It just is kind of random what happens. But don't worry, it's not important. Just ignore it for now. What we're going to do is come up to this little blue node right up here at the top, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to right-click, and we're going to again select Split Line. And when we do that, we can see now that our stop point is up here and our end point is down here. So they've gotten separated on us. We're actually going to now change this into a run stitch. So I'm going to come back to my normal select icon, which is going to select that. If you want to make sure that this one is selected here. So you're going to be your first steel in the sequence view is selected. It should automatically be selected, but if you accidentally click off, come back and select that steel stitch. To convert it to a run is very simple. We're just going to come up here right now and click our run stitch, our convert to run stitch icon, and we're just going to click that once, and now you can see we've turned that into a run stitch. All right, we've got one more thing that we need to do to this. We need to come back to the steel stitch that remains, and we are now going to split it again. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to come back here. Wait, did I do the wrong one? hold on a second. Looks like I did the wrong one. So I am going to back up here and make sure that everything is correct. No, I don't want that first steel stitch. I want the second steel stitch. No, I want the first steel stitch. Okay, this is kind of crazy. Sometimes it goes first, sometimes it doesn't, but you just want to make sure that you're on the right one. So I do want the second one, and I'm going to convert that into a run. So I apologize, I've kind of gone backwards, but the preview here kind of messed me up a little bit because it didn't quite show the run stitch. So what we're going to do is come up to the first steel stitch, so we're going to reselect that. Okay, now it looks okay. We're going to go back to our shape tool, and we're going to come back to this node right here in the lower right-hand corner. We're again going to repeat the split line procedure. So we're going to come here, and we are going to say split line. Okay, so now we've got everything all split. And so now you can't see it anymore, but we have a steel stitch running along here. We have a run stitch here, and we have another steel stitch right here. It doesn't look like a steel at the moment because it looks like artwork. We don't actually want this stitch at all. We want to just eliminate it. So we're just going to reselect it with our select tool, and then we are just going to delete it by coming up here to our cut icon and simply delete that stitch. Now what we need to do, well, let me just recap for a second. So what we've got created here, we've got a steel stitch that's going to start down here, run up here, and then a run stitch is going to come down to this corner. What we're going to do now is we're going to fill this area with our textured fill. So to do that, we're going to come back to our sequence view. We're going to reselect the first artwork by clicking on it. And you can see that we've now got that whole pink area selected. We're going to convert it to a texture fill by coming up here to our texture fill right here. We're going to click on that icon, and we want to come down and we want to find an icon called star 01 DJ. So we're going to come down to where it's alphabetical, and this is it right here, star 01 DJ. Don't be confused by star D01 DJ. That stands for Star of David. This is just a regular old star, and guess what? It's called DJ because DJ made this pattern. Okay, so you're going to select that, and you're going to click OK. And that's going to bring this pattern in. Now that pattern is pretty big for our purposes. We want it to be a lot tighter. So we're going to come over here to our pattern length parameters in our properties box, and we're going to backspace over that. We're going to change it to a 7. So we want a 7mm pattern length, and we're going to click Apply. You can see now we have a nice tight pattern here. Now normally we'd have to come in and we would have to copy and paste, or excuse me, we'd have to recreate that pattern every time. Instead, we are going to use a copy and paste technique to do that instead. But before we do that, we need to adjust the start and stop points of this so they start and stop down here in this corner. So I'm going to grab the shape tool, and you can see now we've got a start point here and we've got an end point. And we're going to just click on the start point, click and drag it all the way down here to this corner and let off the mouse. We're going to drag our end point to the same place and let off the mouse. Let me just drag it just a little closer. There we go. Now they're perfectly in the right place. And just for your information, this line right here is our angle line. So it controls the angle of how these stitches are going. We want them to be vertical like this, so we're not going to mess with that in this design. But some other design, you could certainly mess with that if you want to. Now, to rephrase what I said a little bit ago, a little bit out of sequence, we want to repeat this here, here, and here. Now, we could go through all the steps to recreate it in each place, but instead we are going to use a copy and paste shortcut to do that. To do that, we're going to come over to our sequence view, and we want to select the fill, the steal, and the run stitch all together. To do that, we've already got the first one selected. We're going to come over here with our control. We're going to hold down control. Now you can't see it, but I'm holding down the control button on my keyboard, and I am going to click on the steal stitch, the complex fill, and I'm also going to click on the run. So I've got all three of them selected with control, And so I'm holding down the control and clicking 3 times and then letting off control. Very important that you do it in that sequence and don't let off control early. So you should see these 3 items highlighted. When they're highlighted, we're going to put them down here. But if we just put this one down here, we won't have one up here. So again, we're going to use our copy and paste. So we're going to click copy. We're going to click paste. And that puts another set. You can see now we have 6 items like that over here. Puts another set right on top. And we're going to move one of them down here. Before we do that, we're going to rotate it so it's in the right orientation. To do that, we're going to come up here to our rotate icon, click rotate left 2 times to rotate it correctly. Then we're going to come into the center of it. Make sure your cursor's a little hand like you see it here, and just drag it into position and line it up with the other block. It doesn't have to be super precise. If it's off a little bit, that's okay, because the steel stitches are going to hide the ends pretty well. Okay, so that's how we get our second copy. While it's still selected, we now need to go back to our shape tool, because our start and stop points potentially in the wrong place. Our stop point's in the right place, but our start point wants to be up here where this block finished. So it's hiding underneath our red stop point. You can see that because when you hover over it, the green circle appears saying, if I click now, I'm not going to pick up that red point, that stop point. I'm going to pick up the green start point, which is exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag it up to this corner here. So now what's going to happen is this whole piece is going to stitch, and then it's going to start stitching this one here and end down here, because we want to go directly into the next block here and then over here. So once we've done that, we're going to use that same copy and paste trick again to get these filled in. But because we have 2 now, we don't have to do 1, 2. We can actually select all of these and copy and paste them over here. So to do that, I'm going to select the first 6 items in the sequence view. Now you can do that by selecting the first one and control-clicking all the next 5, or you can use another shortcut, which is what I'm going to do now, which is come down to the bottom one, this run stitch, hold down the shift key, and click. And that selects everything in between the first one that was selected and the last one that I selected. So we now have all these selected. Again, I'm going to repeat my copy and paste procedure. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste. And now we have to rotate left 4 times. So I'm going to come to my rotate left icon here. I'm going to click it 1, 2. He said 2, but it didn't go. 2, 3, 4. And I am going to drag that one. Oops, I dragged my toolbar. I don't want to do that. I want to drag this one down into place. And it is now in the perfect place. Now, it looks like this one disappeared. It really did not disappear because it's being hidden by the orange background and or the pink background, and we are actually going to take care of that right now. So we've got all our stitches done. We're going to come back to our sequence view, and we are going to eliminate these last 3 artworks. So I'm going to click on the first one. I'm going to control-click on the next 2, and I'm going to delete them by coming up to my cut icon here and click cut. Okay, and I'm going to attempt to put this toolbar back where it's supposed to go. There it is. Okay, now that's where you should see it familiar. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on this winter blue part here. It looks kind of turquoise on my screen. I don't know how it looks on yours. But we are going to come over here to our sequence view, and we are going to click on color number 11. If it is not already expanded, you want to click on the little plus sign here to expand it. We are going to click everything. Okay, so we're going to select everything that's that color by clicking on the top level here. So you're going to click on this top level, color number 11. And what we're going to do now is we're actually going to create an outline around the whole thing. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to right-click. We can either right-click over here or right-click over here. I'm going to do it over here in the sequence view. I'm going to right-click, and we're going to select Create Outline. That's going to bring up a little dialog box. It's going to set your default distance of 0.08 inches. We actually want it to be 0, so I'm just going to backspace, and I'm going to backspace over it and type in a 0. And you want to make sure your repeats are at 1, and we're going to click OK. So that's actually going to create an outline all the way around it. And we're going to use that outline to now create the rest of our steel stitch for this design. So it's going to run all the way around the rest of these pieces. We're going to do that the way we did it before by coming up here to our Convert to Steel. This color should already be selected. So all we need to do is come over here and click Convert to Steel. This is going to take a little while to go because it's got a lot of calculation to do to create all those steel stitches. So here in a second, it should make steel stitches. And there we go. So now we've got steel stitches. We want the width of these to match our other ones. So we're going to come over here to our Properties box, and we're going to, again, type in 1.4 and click Apply. And now we've got a steel stitch running all the way around the design that is our steel stitch and defines the rest of those faux pieces. What we want to do now is we want to actually eliminate this center artwork because we're not going to do anything with this. This is just going to be a blank piece here. So this is just going to look like the background fabric because it will be the background fabric. To delete that, that happens to be the very first artwork here. So we're going to come up here and we're going to select that under color number 11. And we're going to delete it. We're going to come up here to our cut icon, and we are just going to delete that center artwork. The last remaining thing we need to do is we need to put our advanced stippling stitch, our other texture type fill, in here. To do that, we're going to use our advanced stippling. So that's this icon right here. You're going to click that. We want to use a pattern called hexagons. So we're going to scroll down till we find hexagons. They're right here. You're going to go ahead and click that and click OK. And I'm sorry, but it didn't do everything. I'm going to back up. I need to select the whole thing. So I'm going to select the top level here of color number 11. I'm sorry I skipped that step. So go ahead and click color number 11. And if you notice, what I did there is I just quickly clicked undo. And I just want to reiterate, as I always do, that undo is your friend. And it was just my friend right there. So I just selected everything. And once again, I'm going to come here to advanced stippling. I'm going to scroll down until I find hexagons again. There they are. I'm going to click hexagons and click OK. And now we filled in everything with hexagons. The size of these hexagons is fine, so we are not going to change the stitch pattern length like we did on the other one, but we are going to want to adjust the start and stop points. And we're going to have to do that, unfortunately, for all of them. So we are going to come down here to that color, the last color here, or excuse me, the middle color here, color number 11. We're going to open it all up so we can select all of the complex fills. I want you to come here and select the very first one, which should be the one in the upper right corner here. Again, we're going to come and click our Shape tool because now we want to adjust the start and the stop points. And again, you can see the start and stop points. And what we want to do is we want to click on the start circle, and we're going to drag it to the inner corner. So we want it to start and stop down here. So we're going to take our start, and we're going to drag it down to the inner corner. You notice wherever I drag, it stays on the edge. So you don't have to worry about being too precise with your mouse. So I'm going to drag it down there. We're going to repeat that with the stop icon, and now we've adjusted that one. We need to do it for the rest of them, so I'm going to click on the second one. I'm going to real quickly run through this. We're going to take our start, put it down there, our stop, put it down there. We're going to do the same thing with the third one. I'm going to select it, select my Shape tool, drag my start down into the corner. I'm going to drag my stop down into the corner, and, oh, come on, you want to go there. He does, okay. And then the last one, just going to repeat that procedure one last time. Drag our start point over into the corner and we're going to drag our stop point into the corner. I didn't get my start point right in the corner. I'm just going to move it a little bit. There we go. Now they're all lined up. So now we've got our start and stop points all set up. So these are going to start and stop in a reasonable place. And the last thing we are going to do is we are going to change the color that we just created of our steel stitch going all the way around to match this color. So you're going to come down here and select that color. So you're going to select that color. And we want to make it this color. It's color number 11. It's down here in our palette as color number 11. So once you've got this deep ocean selected, which is the last item in our sequence view, just come over to color number 11, right-click on color number 11, and you can see it's now all the same color here. So we have our 4 complex fills followed by our steel stitch. We've got 2 more things we need to do to get this block ready to sew, and that is, first of all, we need to resize it so it will fit in our 8-inch hoop. To resize the whole thing, we need to select it all. Now there's multiple ways you can do that. One is to use your select tool and come over here and drag a box all the way around it. That's method number 1. Method number 2 is to come to Edit and click Select All, or use the Windows shortcut of Control-A. And the third method that I want to show you is in your sequence view by simply clicking the top level, which is all items, and that will also select everything. So that's what we're going to stay with. You want to come over here to your transform icon in your properties box, click that, and we're going to change this to 7 inches wide. So this is going to be a 7-inch block when we're done. If maintain aspect ratio is checked, you just need to put 7 in the top one. The bottom one will change to 7, and simply click apply, and it will recalculate all the stitches and make it 7 inches wide. And then there's one more step we need to do, and this is because we want to be able to line this block up in our hoop with the other 3 blocks that we're going to stitch out with it. To make that easier, we're going to put some placement marks in. Now these placement marks, you'll see how to use them in the assembly instructions, but we're going to go ahead and put them in now. You don't necessarily have to stitch them out. That is totally up to you. If you have a machine that you're going to line this up by camera, you probably do want to stitch them out and then align the placement marks up with the previous block's alignment marks. If you don't have a machine with a camera and you have some other way to do it with placement marks, you probably also want to stitch them out. Or if you want to do it pretty much manually using needle drops, which is what we're going to show you next, you probably don't want to stitch them, but doesn't mean you don't need them, because we're actually going to use where the needle is on them to mark our fabric. So let's put the placement marks in. We're going to do that with this icon right here, which is conveniently called the placement marks icon. We have a total of 8 we could use. We are only going to use the 4 in the corners. So to select the 4 in the corners, simply click on each one that we're going to use. So we're going to use those 4. Click OK. And it is going to add placement marks for us out here in the corners, and those are going to stitch first and be black thread. All right, so that completes the design. What we're going to do now is we're going to save it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to save it as a C2S file. So you want to come up here to your file, click Save As, and we are going to save it as a C2S file. Now I'm going to show you where that folder is. So I'm going to go all the way back up to my C drive, and this is going to show you where we put your project of the month. So what's going to be in this folder is not only going to be your design, but also your printed instructions, your PDF instructions. You won't see them in this screen because we don't show you PDFs, but trust me, they will be there. So you want to go to your C drive, click the Floriani folder, go to Designs. You want to scroll down, and your view may look a little different than mine, but you want to come down to a folder called MDQ Project. You want to double-click that folder. You should find a folder called September, and inside September you'll find September 2014. If you're doing this right away, that should be the only thing there. If you're watching this a year or two from now, you might find the September 2015 and 16 folders, but right now there's 2014. So you want to open that folder, and you can see I already have a block here named that. That's because we're going to give you the block so you can take a look at it. So you could either save it right over this, or you can name it something else. So I'm just going to call this one my faux pieced block, and we're going to save it as a C2S file. So don't change this bottom part. We're going to save it as a C2S file. But as you know, your machine cannot stitch a C2S file. No machine can. So you're then going to want to save it in your machine format. To do that, you want to come back up here to File, click Save As, and instead this time of saving it as a C2S, you want to come down here and select a machine format. I'll select Baby Lock Brother Bernina PES version 9 and click Save, and that would save it as a PES file. And so that completes the software part of this. We're going to move on now to the stitch out portion. And while my PowerPoint loads, I'm going to take a sip of water. So you've seen this slide before. I didn't mention it before, but this project was designed by Rita Gazard and presented by myself, Mark Garretts. And again, this is what it's going to look like when you're done. Now, I just want to reiterate that we've made a bag out of this. You can use this technique to do any kind of quilting that you want. You can make a whole quilt out of it. You could make a zipper purse out of it. Whatever you want to do, it's just a great technique to simulate piecing without all the work of piecing. You're just basically letting your embroidery machine do all the work. So let's go over the materials that you're going to require. You need some Floriani nylon no-show mesh. Fusible mesh is an option. The way we're going to teach you in this assembly instructions is to use the non-fusible, but there'll be some points along the way where I will mention fusible as an option, so just take note of that. You're going to need some wet and gone tacky. If you follow the directions that we present here, again, there'll be an option to dispense with that, but if you want to do it the way we're showing you, then you'll need some wet and gone tacky. You'll need some Floriani stitch and shape. This is our wonderful material that when it's heated, it retains its shape, and it's got some great stiffness and body to it. That's going to be used in the actual assembly of the bag itself. We won't be talking about that, the stitch and shape, any further, but I just want to mention what that's for. But it is in your printed instructions. You'll need some Floriani applique Wonder Tape in the 1-inch width. Again, that will be used for assembly. We've got some R&K Embroidery Perfection Tape on here. That's an option. If you have it, it's probably preferred in the stitch out section, which you'll see. But if you don't have any, you can also use the applique Wonder Tape for that. Again, you'll see that. You'll need some Floriani embroidery thread in the 40 weight. You could also use our cotton quilting thread if you want, either one. Just a reminder that if you do decide to use the cotton quilting thread, make sure you use a number 90 top stitch needle with that. You're going to need two 17-inch squares of fabric for the stitching, and that's also going to become the outside of the bag. So choose your fabric well for that and your thread colors to go with it. You're going to need two 13.5-inch squares of fabric for the lining. Could be the same fabric, or if you want, could be a contrasting or matching fabric. That's totally up to you. And lastly, you're going to need two 4.5 by 15-inch strips of fabric for the handles. Again, that could be matching, contrasting, whatever you want for the handles. You're going to be using an 8x8 or 200 by 200 millimeter minimum hoop size for this project. And lastly, you're going to need a chalk wheel or chalk marker of some kind to make a mark on the fabric so we can line it up. Those are your materials. Before we really get into it, I want to go over some important notes with you. So in these directions, we're going to be referring to the different colors as they were saved in the design. The color names may appear different on your machine, depending on your machine. There's only 3 colors. You're probably only going to stitch 2 of them, so it's not that hard to keep track of it with this design. These instructions are going to call for 4 multiple hoopings of the same fabric that must be aligned to the previous stitch. So if you're not comfortable with the technique after you watch this and after you read the instructions, that's fine. You can do 8 individual hoopings and then stitch the blocks together in 2 groups of 4 to recreate that 4-block piece, just like you would do with a traditional quilt top. If you're going to do that, then you wouldn't use the wet and gone tacky or the regular nylon no-show mesh. You'd use the fusible, you'd fuse it to the back of your fabric, and hoop it conventionally, because you've got nothing to line up, because you're just going to stitch it out 4 times. In fact, you'd have to actually do 8 to get the entire piece done. So we're going to go over the way that Rita's designed it, and we'll have some options along the way. But the first thing you want to do is you want to cut a piece of wet and gone tacky about 1 inch smaller than the outside of your hoop. You might have to adjust that size a little bit, but the idea is you want a piece that's big enough to stick well to the underside of the hoop, as you see in the picture here. So you're going to tighten up your hoop, stick the stabilizer to the back, and the tacky side, of course, wants to be facing the top of the hoop. So if you've stuck it to the back, it's going to come out right. So you want it to be nice and tight. So get that stabilizer nice and tight. When you stick it down, you can peel it up and stick it back if you don't get it nice and tight. Just want to make sure there's no bubbles or wrinkles in it, and it's going to stick to the back of the hoop. You're then going to take your fabric, and you are going to mark a chalk line on it on the right side of the fabric, and this is going to be your 17-inch square fabric. You're going to divide it equally through the center. So you've got this chalk line here, and we've enhanced the chalk line. It won't look this nice, of course, but we wanted to be able to make sure that you saw it in the video. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to divide that into 4, and the lower left-hand corner where the arrow's pointing here, this is the quarter of the fabric that we are going to align and stitch first. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stick that corner of the fabric to the hoop, squaring it up to the hoop as much as possible. So you want to square those lines to the edge of the hoop. You want to make sure that you've got the stitchable area of the fabric in the hoop. You want to make sure that your needle can get to those chalk lines and also doesn't run off the edge of the hoop and run into your hoop. So you've got to make sure you get this nice and aligned in the hoop. So press it down real well with your fingers, load the design into the machine, and attach the hoop to the machine. Now, in the next set of instructions, we're going to be showing you a manual way to line up your design. But if your machine has functions to line up the design that's more convenient to use than the manual way we're showing you, by all means, I recommend that you use them. All right. Now, the first thing we're going to do after you load the design is you're going to move the needle to the upper right corner of the design, which will be the center of that placement mark, using your machine functions to go back and forwards a stitch at a time as you need to. Okay, so you're going to move it over there, go backwards and forwards, so you get the needle right in that corner. You want to lower the needle a little bit and see how well it aligns to the intersection of the 2 chalk lines, where the diagram that you see says first right there in the upper right-hand corner. If it's not aligned, you have a choice. You can either align it with the alignment functions in your machine, or you can unstick and move the fabric. That is totally up to you. Just make sure that you've got it aligned. Once you have it aligned, you want to place either a piece of applique wonder or embroidery perfection tape underneath where the needle is, which is going to be in that intersection right there, and you want to manually lower the needle with the wheel on your machine and put a puncture mark in there. Now, the reason we've used the tape is so you can see the puncture mark. If we didn't use tape there, it would kind of vanish into the fabric when you put the needle back up. So you want to put the tape down, and like I said, either kind of tape is fine. Lower the needle all the way down to puncture the fabric, and then manually move the needle back up into position. The next thing you want to do is move the needle to the lower right corner of the design, and again, that's going to be the center of that placement mark in the lower right corner. Again, you want to lower the needle a little bit, check to see if it's on the chalk line. If it is, you're great. If it isn't, adjust the fabric a little bit, trying your best to pivot it around the first point. You don't want to mess up the alignment of the first point. So a technique you might use for that is to actually step backwards to where that first point was, manually lower the needle, and physically pivot the fabric around your needle, just like you would if you were doing a pivot in regular sewing. All right? So, and then, of course, come back to the second point, make sure it's all lined up, and when it is, you want to repeat the tape and the puncture procedure. We're going to do this one more time. This time we're going to move to the upper left corner and repeat the alignment procedure. And you can see in the diagram here, or in the picture rather, we've actually used a piece of applique wonder tape up in the corner so you can see the two different types of tape. Again, doesn't matter. After you're done with all three punctures, just go back and check to make sure that everything's all nice and lined up. When it is, what you want to do is you want to float a piece of nylon no-show mesh underneath the hoop. You're going to slide it between the bottom of the hoop and the machine bed. You want to line it up with the hoop. And this piece of nylon no-show mesh only needs to be as big as the stitch area. Probably a good idea to make it a little bit bigger. There's no need to adhere it to the hoop. The first couple of stitches is going to pick it up and carry it along. And this floater piece is actually going to provide you with the support for the stitches. Okay, so that's what's going to support the stitches. And if you don't want to do this technique, you can also optionally hoop it a different way, and that's what our optional hooping method is here. You can hoop the wet and gone tacky conventionally, which means that you would take it paper side up, put it between the two pieces of the hoop, remove the protective paper, and then you would want to fuse some fusible nylon no-show mesh to the fabric conventionally like you would normally fuse it, and then stick the fabric and stabilizer together down to the wet and gone tacky. So either way you want to do it is fine, whichever you feel more comfortable with. Once you have everything aligned, you want to start the stitching. The black stitches out the placement mark, the black thread. If you use the tape and hole method of lining things up, you can advance your machine past those stitches so you don't need to stitch them at all. If you're going to use a camera or something like it, you probably do want to stitch them out. And the pink and blue threads stitch out the decorative stitches and the satin outlines. Now, we're pink and blue colors in the software, but obviously in the picture here we've used two different shades of brown with a brownish fabric. So again, those choices are totally up to you. Once this is totally stitched out, we're going to remove the fabric from the hoop, and we are going to peel away the wet and gone tacky from the hoop. We are going to fold back towards the top as much of the fabric as possible. So you want to fold it back towards the stitches as you see in the diagram here. You'll be left with the stabilizer hanging out. You want to turn it upside down and stick that stabilizer to your cutting board. That's going to hold the fold in place so it doesn't come out of place. And then what you want to do is, with your flat ruler, as you see in the second picture, measure out about a 1/16 of an inch away from the fabric. And with your rotary cutter, we want to trim the stabilizer away. You want to take special care not to trim, not to cut the fabric. And you want to repeat that for all four sides. And then you want to take your scissors and you want to trim away the excess nylon no-show mesh, again taking care not to cut the fabric. When you're done, the block is going to look something like this, but I just wanted to let you know that we did not show you the nylon no-show mesh here, so you could see how the wet and gone tacky was trimmed away. But you will have nylon no-show mesh in your project. We're now going to embroider the second section. You're going to repeat your hooping steps, except this time you're going to use the lower right corner of the fabric. You're going to align the design like we did before to the first and the second puncture mark. So those are going to be on the center line. Or you're going to align it with your camera, whatever, if the placement marks, if you used them. We're going to create a new puncture mark this time in the top right corner of the design. So you're going to move the needle over there, get it all nice and lined up, and do the tape and puncture procedure. Verify that all the points line up and stitch out the second section. It's exactly the same file as the first one. You're not going to change the file at all, so just stitch it out one more time. We're going to do the third section. We're going to repeat the hooping steps, except this time we're going to use either upper corner. Doesn't matter which one you use. Important thing is here is don't rotate the fabric. You want to leave the fabric in the same orientation through all of these steps. Again, we're going to use either upper corner. You're going to align the design to the 2 lower puncture marks. So those are going to be the one on the horizontal line. Again, if you used placement marks instead of the puncture technique, you're going to use those. This time, you're going to create a new puncture mark in the top center corner. So it doesn't matter whether you use the right or left. It's still going to be the center. So you want to move the needle up there, line it up to the chalk line, place your tape down and puncture that. Re-verify that all the points line up and stitch and trim as before. And then lastly, we are going to repeat the hooping steps and do the last section. This time we're going to use whatever upper corner you didn't do in the last step. All your alignment marks are already there, so you don't have to puncture anything anymore or stitch any more alignment marks. You're just going to use the marks that are already there, and you're going to verify that all the points line up, stitch and trim as before, and that will complete the first panel. That's the good news. Bad news, you got to do it one more time. So repeat all the steps to create another panel. The last thing you want to do is go to the printed instructions. We don't have time in this webinar to go through the whole assembly of the tote bag. That's going to be using your standard sewing machine, standard sewing techniques, pretty easy. Rita walks you all through them in the PDF that you're going to download. But I just want to reiterate that you ought to remember that you don't just have to make a tote bag with this technique. You can take this faux piecing technique and use it to create any kind of quilt that you want, whether it's an actual quilt or any other type of project like this tote bag where you want a pieced look, but you don't want to take the time to actually do the piecing. And I want to thank everybody for attending. In a few days or sooner, you'll find the video of this webinar available online. You'll find it on our website. You'll also find it on the club site. And again, you want to go to the club site to download the instructions, and we hope that you will use the video along with the printed instructions to recreate the project at home. And I just want to say one more time that unless you download those printed instructions, you're not going to be able to complete the tote bag because we didn't obviously go through those steps in here. But one more time, I want to thank everybody for attending. Have fun with this technique, and we'll see you next time on the next MDQ webinar.